Hey guys, it's Kendra.
And this is Jessica, and you're listening to
Lucid Lab.
By the time this comes out, I will be back from my trip, but I have not left yet, so.
So you're still getting ready.
I am.
I am not doing much because I'm just getting over the flu.
Yes.
And I don't usually get sick, and I was knocked down hard by this flu. So be careful out there, guys. There's a lot going around. Of course, it'll be like 4 weeks later at this point. Maybe everyone's healed by now. If you hear anything weird with my voice today, just know I completely lost it for a while.
Yeah.
And so I'm just happy to be here recording today.
Yeah, we were supposed to record a few days ago, and she didn't have a voice.
No, it would have been miserable for me and for you guys to listen to.
My daughter is sick right now, too, and I told her, get it out of your system.
Yes.
We are leaving in a few days.
And hopefully you do not get anything. Take your vitamin C.
Yeah, I never get anything that she brings home, so I'm really not worried.
You have the young child mom immune system right now.
Yes, I think so. I was going to say that my week wasn't eventful. I'm stressing out and trying to leave for this trip and get out of anxiety mode and try to get into being excited. But my house flooded, so that was fun.
Yeah, we both had really rough weeks.
We did. Yep.
But we're still here to bring you new content.
We are.
Because that's what we enjoy doing.
We do.
And even though Jessica's still putting her house back together.
Kind of. It will not be done by the time I need to leave, so it'll be an ongoing project.
It's a little stressful.
Very, actually.
But try not to think about it when you're in California.
Yes, I'm going to soak that in, and I hope it feels like I'm gone for a month.
Yes.
That's what I really need it to be. I need it to be
You
a
need
true
this
break.
Yeah. So what are we going to talk about today?
Today we are going to the cornfields of Ohio.
We haven't been to Ohio much.
I don't know why. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there.
That doesn't surprise me. I lived there for a couple of years.
Did you?
I did.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Right after I got married, my ex-husband was from that area, from Southern Ohio.
Does it just give off serial killer vibes? Because there's a lot there.
It is, and I don't want to make assumptions here or stereotypes, but there's some very interesting people who are kind of xenophobic, I guess is the way to say it. Very small town mindset. Maybe it's just the area I was in, but
yeah,
I could see them hiding a few skeletons in their closet.
Yeah.
Literally.
All I know is the phrase, that's Ohio, because my daughter says it.
That's like the new young generation saying, what does it mean? Like weird or something?
I really don't know. I just remember her saying it to me in the car one day, and I was like, what the
do you mean?
heck? You don't even know what Ohio is. Did you know that that's a state?
She's like, no.
Probably not. Anyway, yes, we're going to Ohio, where a summer bike ride turned into a nightmare that shook a community to its core.
No.
On July 19th, 2016, 20-year-old Sierah Joughin vanished without a trace, leaving behind only her abandoned bicycle and signs of a struggle.
Oh, no.
It's an absolutely heartbreaking story. She was almost home. That's what gets me throughout this entire thing. She was almost home. And if you listen to our recent lab report session about Marissa Matthews-Zweifler,
yes,
this story kind of gives you a similar feeling. I noticed that I almost questioned not doing this one right after that, but it's its own story. It really is.
Okay.
I think the similarity is that how quickly things can change. You leave this person you care about thinking they're safe, and you'll see or hear from them very soon, but within minutes or within a very short time of saying goodbye, unbeknownst to you, something very bad has happened to them.
I can't think about this kind of stuff, or I'd never want my kids to go anywhere or leave my house myself. But it is true. It's like every moment is a gift, and we don't know what's next.
It's a reminder that unfortunately at any moment you can encounter evil.
Yes.
These people live among us hidden. It's not comforting to think about.
No.
Especially with how close in proximity you are to them.
Mm-hmm.
Next door or down the street. We let our guards down because we don't want to live in a world of fear.
Right.
Where bad things happen to good people, because it happens far too often.
It does. And we hear about it more now than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about it on here all the time.
All the time. Well, the desperate search for Sierah ends in devastation, and the realization that her last moments were at the hands of someone so evil and cruel is crushing. And once again, the system failed her.
Yeah.
The signs were there.
Oh.
He did this before.
That makes me so mad.
Who she was lives on, and what happened to her continues to inspire others to make positive impacts in their communities. But unfortunately, the cost was her life. Another young life cut short. So who was Sierah? Sierah Catherine Joughin was born February 11th, 1996 in Sylvania, Ohio. Her parents are Sheila Vikulik and Tom Joughin. She was the only child between the two, but she has 4 siblings, Kayla, Ava, Hunter, and Carson, 2 from her mother's side and 2 from her dad. As a child, she was exuberant and energetic. She always wanted to help others. She loved animals. Her mother describes her as being very content with life, just happy with no worries. Her mom says that she was the perfect child and that she was just really easy to raise.
Okay.
She never caused any trouble. She had an amazing relationship with her mom, but she also had a great relationship with her aunt, Tara, because Tara was only 16 when Sierah was born, so she just adored
like
her.
Friends.
They had a very close bond.
Mm-hmm.
She said that Sierah was like her little real-life baby doll.
Right. I could see that.
They had a sort of sister-like relationship rather than aunt and niece. And damn it, I should find a picture for you right now. She was the cutest kid. You know, some of those kids.
Yeah, some are just cuter than others.
I'm sorry.
They're just adorable.
She reminds me a lot of my niece, Haley, who was just the most adorable child. I think I've told her this before and she listens. So I could not get enough of your freaking little face, Haley.
Yeah.
And I loved your personality. You were the cutest freaking kid. And that was Sierah too.
Mm-hmm.
And Tara grew up, got married, had kids. She was part of their family. She was included in all of their vacations. She spent part of Christmas Day with them.
Okay.
She was like another daughter to them.
Yeah.
So much so, when she got her driver's license, they were the ones to get her first brand new car as a gift.
Wow. That's amazing. She had like 2 families.
Yeah.
2 moms.
It's true.
Almost.
Tara and Howard, her uncle, loved her as their own. Sierah was fully loved by everyone in her family. She had many homes to call home. Her mom, her dad, her aunt, her grandparents. She really had it all.
Good for her.
She had that full support system,
Mm-hmm.
which is why it broke so many people.
Right.
As Sierah grew up in her preteen years, she reminds me a lot of my own daughter. Just a ball of energy that never stops. So much fun. You just always wanted to be around her and be there for when she says or does the next craziest thing, like, that's Ohio. She loved to sing. She loved to do karaoke. She loved arts and crafts. To friends and family, she went by C or Cece.
I like that.
She was young, but she was really sure of herself, and everyone will say that. She knew exactly who she was.
Mm-hmm.
She was confident and kind. She had no enemies. Anyone who met her was comfortable with her and wanted to be her friend.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't anyone who met her who didn't become her friend. She was very outgoing, and everybody said that she was the life of the party.
Okay.
Really, she's just the quintessential carefree, popular American girl.
Mm-hmm.
She loved life and she was really optimistic about the future. She didn't take herself seriously. And because of that, she didn't go through a lot of what girls her age did, always questioning ourselves, you know, super focused on our bodies. That wasn't her. She had high self-esteem, and so she didn't really deal with that growing up. She was never seeking other people's validation, which is a lesson, unfortunately, a lot of us learn later in life.
Well, I also think it helps when you have a full support system like she has.
Absolutely.
Like, honestly, most of the reason we doubt ourselves and things like that come from trauma from a young age. And she, you know, got the genetic lottery. She got born into a very, very good family, had that good support system, and that allows you to be that confident, best version of yourself.
Very true. Very true.
She reminds me a lot of Marissa. I can see why you just talking about like how involved she was and the family and everything like that seems similar.
Very much so. She grew up in Metamora, Ohio, which is about 45 minutes outside of Toledo.
Okay.
Metamora is a tiny rural town of cornfields.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what you think of when you think of Midwest America.
Right.
But when I say tiny, I mean tiny. In 2016, when this took place, there were only 625 residents.
Oh, everybody knows everyone then.
There's even less there today.
Like, how would you even hide as a serial killer? Well, not a serial killer, but as a
Yes,
criminal.
everyone does know everyone, but in this area, you kind of have to think of it as, so there's 625 people in Metamora, but all of these cities like butt up against each other, all these tiny little rural towns. So there's tons of them.
And there's probably people traveling through.
Yeah. Metamora maybe has like a couple things, probably like 10 churches, but like
Probably.
a post office, you know, one little gas
Grocery
station or
store.
something. Yeah. One of those places. But because of that, it's also one of those places where what happens to Sierah doesn't happen, right?
Of course not.
That kind of thing doesn't happen there, but it did. and it was more horrific than anyone could imagine.
Yeah, it would completely
Sever
like shake your reality.
Yeah. Yes.
You live in small towns so that you know everybody and bad things don't happen.
Yeah. But the problem is
bad things happen everywhere.
And like you just said a minute ago, you go through towns. Not everybody that comes into your town knows you.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a thoroughfare.
Right.
You can't control everything.
No.
But Sierra loved it there. She loved her life, her family, and her friends. And she loved her boyfriend, John Kolazinski.
Okay.
Their relationship is straight from like a Nicholas Sparks book.
Okay. High school sweetheart.
Yes. They grew up together. They met at like 5 or 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Their friendship became something more, kind of ending middle school, going into high school. And they were together all of high school. And they were a very well-known couple until her death. They had so much fun together and they were committed.
Mm-hmm.
They did absolutely everything together, even the wild stuff. They went skydiving together at one point.
Oh, fun.
And I love this. She was on video when the skydiving instructor asked her reasoning for going skydiving. And she just said, just living life.
Well, good for her.
Her and Josh were hip to hip best friends. And they were best friends before they were romantic, which he always talks about and why they were so compatible.
Yeah, makes sense.
He knew her through and through. He described her as strong-headed, stubborn, with a very strong personality. But that's what he loved about her, her confidence and her love for him. Marriage and kids were in the future, but first college.
Yeah.
And he supported her in absolutely everything. They graduated from Evergreen High School in 2014, and Sierra went on to attend classes at the University of Toledo's Junior College of Business. She was studying human resource management, but she had big dreams. She wanted to change the world, which I know that's said a lot, but I don't sit here and say that. Like, because I know
never
I'm not,
said that.
I'm not capable. Just myself.
Especially not at that age. When I was like 18, I didn't want to change the world.
I mean, I would love to.
Yeah, but I guess we aren't as aspirational or confident.
And she was, though. And one classmate later on, he even said that he thought that she would be president one day. Like,
oh, wow.
That's how people saw her.
Yeah, no one would say that about me.
Absolutely not. No. So let's go to the fateful day. It's the summer of 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Sierra is home from school on summer break.
Okay.
Back in Metamora, it was the summer before her junior year in college. She was staying with her grandmother. She got an internship with her uncle's metal stamping business, working in admin. Everyone was so happy to have her back home and safe.
Right.
Although she was working towards studying abroad for a year. So she did want to go do something, take the next big step. After that, she was going to move back to Metamora and live with her aunt while she finished up school. She wanted to transition to finishing her degree online.
Okay.
But what I just loved about this family is I remember when I came upon her story at first, I wondered if she had a good relationship with her mom when I found out she was living with her grandmother, and you saw a lot about her aunt. And it's just because she did have that huge support system where she could live wherever she wanted.
That's awesome.
And her mom had younger kids that she was still taking to school and doing all kinds of stuff. So it's just that she had
places to go.
Exactly.
She had options.
A safe place everywhere. But she was happy to be home that summer, and it was a perfect summer. Tuesday, July 19th, 2016 was just another normal, beautiful summer day. It was in the 80s. Sierra had just got home the night before from a vacation with her aunt, and she couldn't wait to see him. They had been together for over 6 years at that point.
Wow.
He was her person and she's his.
Right.
What she didn't know was that he was planning to ask her to marry him at some point that summer.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is. Just a bittersweet piece of this story. So it's just after 5 p.m. and she decided to go for a bike ride to go see him. He wasn't exactly close. It was roughly 6 miles away, but Sierra was fit.
Yeah, 6 miles on a bike isn't that bad.
She was a runner, too. She felt like she could do the ride no problem. She had a car, but it's a rural town.
And she's enjoying the nice summer afternoon.
Beautiful cornfields, music in her ears. There's no reason why she shouldn't take a calming bike ride.
Yeah.
Her mother knew she was going. She thought nothing of it because nothing happens there.
Right.
It wasn't unusual at all.
She's probably done it many times before.
Probably.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Over 6 years of dating.
Right. So Sierra took her purple bike and she started on County Road 6 to his house. She made it to his house and did slightly regret her choice to ride her bike because it's 80s toasty still.
Yeah, it gets hot.
Yeah. She was sweaty and out of breath and probably not exactly how she wanted to see him.
After not seeing him for a week or so, yeah.
But they were happy to see each other, and she didn't stay long. They were together for about an hour.
Okay.
She left his house around 6:30, 6:40 to ride her bike back to her grandma's house.
And it's still light outside. It's
Yes.
summertime.
Yeah, it doesn't get dark until around like 9.
Right.
Being the boyfriend that he was, even though her mom wasn't worried, he was a little worried about her riding back at night, even though it wasn't dark yet, just being alone. So he got on his motorcycle and rode with her.
Oh, cute.
They rode together for about a mile. During that time, they took a couple Snapchat videos.
Oh, cute.
I guess it was typical of them, and a running joke that she would be doing something physical when he wasn't, like her riding a bike and him on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
One video, he pulls up a little ahead of her and yells back to her, "Move your ass." She was just laughing and smiling. But at some point, she tells him that she's fine to ride back the rest of the way without him. He, of course, questioned that, but like he said, she's strong-willed and he doesn't win many fights.
Right.
So he conceded after about another mile and they stopped. He kissed her. He told her he loved her and to text him when she got home, and they went their separate ways.
Okay.
And this was just before 7 p.m.
Okay.
But he never got that text.
He's going to regret this forever. Poor guy.
At first, he didn't think anything of it. I mean, it was typical and somewhat expected that she would let him know when she got somewhere.
Right.
I mean, we've been in relationships. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
She was good about letting him know that she was okay. But he also knew that it's easy to get distracted when you get somewhere. You know,
you
you're
start
talking to someone,
Mhm.
you're doing something, whatever. It wasn't until a couple of hours later that he questioned that and tried texting and calling her. And after not hearing back from her and her phone going straight to voicemail, he called her mother to see if she had heard from Sierah.
Okay.
Sheila was in bed at the time she got the call. She hadn't heard from Sierah, but Sierah wasn't staying with her. And it's not like they said goodnight every night.
Right. It wouldn't trigger anything for her right now.
But not too long before that, at about 9 p.m., when heading home from something, had driven past her mother's home where Sierra was staying and remembered questioning why Sierra's room light was off.
Okay.
She could see the room's window from the road.
Yeah.
She thought she could be off somewhere, sure. But if she was home, the light would certainly be on because it wasn't too late. But then she thinks maybe she's just tired. The point is it didn't concern her enough to stop and go up to her room to check.
Right.
But as a mom, all of those questions like
They're always in our
filter through
head.
your
Yeah.
brain until you convince yourself, stop. I mean,
It's
she's
fine.
fine.
Because otherwise we'd all be going crazy.
Every second of the day. But with that in mind, and now Josh questioning things, she was immediately worried.
Yes. The mom's instinct kicked in.
She tried calling her, and again, it went straight to voicemail.
Yeah.
Instantly, she knew something was wrong. So she called her parents and asked them to go check up in Sierra's room to see if she was there. They did. She wasn't there.
Oh, no.
Sierra's grandmother, Kathy, went out to the barn to check and see if Sierra's bike was back, because that's where
Right.
she kept it, in the barn, and it wasn't there.
Oh, no.
And that was it. They knew something had happened.
Uh-huh.
And at this point, it's about 10:30 p.m. Where's Sierra?
Right.
Josh immediately jumped on his motorcycle and started retracing her ride back from where they parted.
Right.
Maybe she was hurt. Maybe she got in an accident.
Maybe she got a flat tire.
Right. Their concern is she got hit by a car and she's unconscious,
Right.
like off the side of the road. The search was difficult. It's pitch dark now.
And there's no lights out
in the
there.
middle
Yeah.
of rural Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
She could be anywhere, but he was hoping to spot something.
Right.
At the same time, Sheila jumped in her car and took Highway 120 into the neighboring town, Lyons.
Okay.
To get help, it wasn't as easy as calling 911 there. Sure, she could call, but a missing person of just a few hours isn't going to result in the urgency they knew they needed.
Right.
Sierra was 20. She was independent. They would just get kickback.
Right.
But they knew Sierra.
They knew something was wrong.
It wasn't like her. So if she wanted immediate help, she knew she would have to go get someone in person. And she knew a deputy in Lyons would be parked in the fire department parking lot. So she went straight there.
Okay.
Because Metamora does not have its own police department. That's how small it is.
Mm-hmm.
It refers back to like the sheriff, the county sheriffs.
Yeah, that's common in rural areas.
So she got there, she got out of her car, and she went straight up to the deputy and told her everything. With the sheer concern that she could feel from Sheila, then the deputy put the call through to 911.
Okay.
Sheila stood there answering basic questions with the deputy and dispatch, and she was getting a little agitated. She knew time was of the essence.
Right. Always, but they have to follow their process.
I know. It's difficult. It's difficult to sit there answering questions when you want them to immediately put on their sirens and like go do stuff.
Find
but
my daughter.
They need information.
Mm-hmm.
Sierra's Aunt Tara was doing what she could at the same time. She went onto social media, posted about Sierra missing, hoping that one of her friends might have seen her and that she was safe somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe her phone died, but no one had. And soon the whole town had the same gut feeling something was really wrong.
Yeah.
Around 11:30 p.m., Major Matt Smith-Meyer with the Fulton County Sheriff's Office got a knock on his front door. He was in bed asleep. It was friends of Sierra's family. They knew that they needed to go to him to get help.
Mm-hmm.
He knew Sierra and her family. His daughter graduated with Sierra. This was serious. Other deputies were already out searching, but his familiarity with the family kind of gave that urgency to the matter. Within the first hour of searching County Road 6, one of the deputies, Jeremy Simon, driving slowly down the road, noticed a patch of matted down corn stalks.
Okay.
He got out of his vehicle and went up to the area with a flashlight, and pointing into the stalks, it caught light of something. It was Sierra's bike.
Yep.
The light bounced off of the front reflector.
Mm.
The bike was 3 or 4 rows in, standing up on its kickstand.
Okay.
Hiding in the cornfield, just a half a mile from her home.
Oh my God.
So close. She was almost home.
Oh my God.
That would fucking kill me.
Yeah.
He called other deputies over, including the crime scene unit, and they closed off the area. At about midnight, Josh and Sierra's family members started to get calls about seeing cop lights on County Road 6.
Okay.
They tried to drive to where they were, but they were met with a barricade. They weren't letting anyone through, and no one would tell them anything.
Oh, that's infuriating. It's also part of the process.
I know. All they would say is they're investigating.
Oh my God, it would drive you crazy.
It was absolute torture for them.
Yeah.
Because they literally wouldn't say anything. They wouldn't say if they found her.
Like,
they
is she
wouldn't
alive?
Exactly.
You know, yeah.
I would like cut through the cornfield and just go to the other side. Like they can't block
Tell
the
me.
cornfield.
Tell me what you found. Where's my kid?
But it was now a crime scene. Authorities knew they were dealing with what was Sierra's abduction site. And
oh God.
time really was of the essence to process the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pitch dark, like I said. They had to work fast and try to find anything that would tell them something. The bike was immediately sent off for forensic analysis.
Okay.
There was no damage to the bike, but there was blood on the handlebars and seat.
Oh no.
After walking the field more, they found a screwdriver with an orange handle, men's sunglasses, women's sunglasses, a green woman's sports sock, and a set of fuse boxes for a motorcycle.
Okay.
There were also tire tracks from a motorcycle,
Okay.
as well as streaks of blood on the corn stalks. It wasn't a lot of blood, but enough for a good injury.
Yeah, something happened.
A struggle happened there for sure. The FBI was brought in, and that morning, an agent went to the family and told them what they had found.
Oh.
It was not good news. Everyone knew that there was limited time to find her.
48 hours.
But now that they were convinced that Sierra was abducted and in immediate danger, not only did the search continue, but they started looking at suspects. And who was their first suspect?
Her boyfriend.
Josh. He was the last to be with her.
Yeah.
And he had a motorcycle.
Yes.
He was literally riding alongside her on his motorcycle right before she went missing.
Mm-hmm.
Did he do something to her and make up everything after that?
That would be a wild take.
He was suspect number 1.
Yeah.
And he was interrogated. Despite everyone's insistence that knew him and them as a couple, he could be lying. They had to make sure he wasn't the perpetrator.
I mean, it usually is.
I know. It's
That's
usually the
problem.
guy. And he has a motorcycle. If I wasn't part of the family or friends with him, I would immediately be like, who's that guy?
Yeah, your unbiased opinion is, okay,
Right.
well, that makes sense. They got in a fight.
Exactly. He's not going to say we got in a fight.
Right.
2 FBI agents took him to Evergreen High School and questioned him hard.
I bet.
As they should.
Yes.
They played mean cops, getting straight to the point. Like, where's she at?
Mm-hmm.
Josh was nervous, but he knew he didn't have anything to do with her missing. But it wasn't easy to prove his innocence.
He had no alibi, probably. Like, he probably just went home by himself.
I think he did have an alibi with his family. But again, he was the last to see her and he had a motorcycle.
Yeah, that would be a really tough situation. And you're nervous talking about it and you're upset. Like, there's just so many different conflicting feelings.
And your girlfriend is missing.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're already so your emotions are already so heightened because of that.
Exactly.
And then they're like, oh, he's acting guilty. It's like, no, he's just completely wigged out.
Exactly. At that point, everything pointed to him. Meanwhile, it's the next day. News stations got wind of her missing. Everyone who could show up in their little town did to help search for her.
Right.
The entire community came together to look for her. They formed search teams and walked each cornfield that they could.
Yeah.
A $100,000 reward was put up for anyone who could provide information to help find her.
Yeah.
And while they were doing that, police were given something that would ultimately lead them in the right direction, a helmet.
Oh, okay. They found it.
The night before, a farmer driving down County Road 6 spotted a helmet on the side of the road.
Okay.
He stopped and picked it up. He thought his son could use it, so he took it, finders keepers.
Yeah.
But it was dark out when he picked it up. The next morning, he saw a news segment about Sierra missing and where her bike had been found. And he thought it could be connected, and he took the helmet to the police.
I'm glad he did.
And sure enough, there was blood on the helmet.
Oh, damn.
He didn't notice before. The item would eventually exonerate Josh of any wrongdoing, but not yet.
Okay.
While they were interrogating him, they searched his home and his car, which he let them do without hesitation.
Yeah.
They didn't find anything in his home, but they did find a pair of tan Carhartt overalls in his vehicle with a lot of blood on it.
Oh.
Of course, upon finding it, they think, smoking gun. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But he's like, that's old. It was just still in his car for some reason. It was from a deer hunting trip.
That makes sense. It's Ohio.
He's like, test it. And they did. And it was
deer
animal blood. Sierra's family knew that he needed to be questioned, but they felt like, move on. This is a waste of time. He's not the guy.
That's the frustrating thing is like you are okay with them questioning, but don't just assume that's your guy. You got to keep looking at other avenues.
Yep. And ultimately, they would let him go because the helmet wasn't his. And after taking a step back and just looking at him and just believing the family, their love was real. He took really good care of her.
Right.
And his cooperation, Josh was let go as a suspect.
Good.
But now that meant that they had no idea who to look at.
Then it's just a random guess.
A stranger did this.
Those are the hardest to solve.
Cops started making their rounds, visiting every home in the area. And that is when they show up on the doorstep of James Worley.
Okay.
James Worley lived off County Road 6, about 2 miles from where Sierra's bike was found.
Okay.
Major Matt Smith-Meyer suggested that they go check him out. He knew him to be an odd guy and wanted to rule him out.
Yeah.
Upon showing up there, he warned the other agents that James really likes to talk. So you need to have some patience.
Okay.
He was known in the area as being kind of a paranoid, just super odd dude.
Okay.
He was 57 years old at the time and the caretaker of his mother and brother, both of whom lived on the property with him. He did a lot of odd jobs, but at the time was running a small business out of his home doing small engine repairs.
Okay.
He was known for calling into the cop station a lot, which we'll find out is an odd thing for someone with his history, but he did.
Okay.
He would call about what he thought were suspicious vehicles, someone walking near the cornfields or on his property. He had a lot of cameras up, just constantly calling in with complaints. Just giving you a little bit of a picture of who he was.
I'm picturing a
crazy person
from a movie or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So the agents are there and knock on his door. James answers in his boxers and a shirt. Immediately, you can tell that he's annoyed that they are there. Like, why are you here? They explain, and he willingly tells them, oh, yeah, I heard about that. I was driving my motorcycle up and down Lyons and County Road 6.
Okay.
He brings them inside and pretty much tells the agents to sit down.
Okay.
At first, they said, no, like, we're good to stand. And he literally tells them, no, you're going to sit down.
And now I'm going to talk your ear off.
Suspicious vibes instantly.
Yes.
James starts going off about how he had a motorcycle issues a couple of days before. It broke down in the cornfields, yada, yada. One of the cops knew he needed to be recording this conversation.
Yeah, it's usually when they are providing extra details that is suspicious, right? They can't stop talking.
Right. So this cop starts recording and it's like agents or cops. I can't tell between the story. I think it's both. So if I use them interchangeably, don't shoot me. But he like motions to the other agent that I'm recording, you know?
Yeah.
And James caught on and started berating the cop. You got something going on with your phone there?
What the fuck?
And the cop replies that he's like texting with his boss. He's just trying to control the situation.
The audacity.
Very odd.
Yeah.
But he goes on with this story about how his bike broke down.
Okay.
It's 500 pounds. He's too far from home to walk it back. So he was going to park it in the corn rows and walk back, but as he's pushing it back into the corn stalks, he notices 2 bicycles.
Oh.
Saying that there was a gray one and a bluish bike. Hers was purple.
Okay.
But the purpose of him saying this is just to give him an alibi for why his bike happened to be in the same area as her bike.
Okay. And his helmet, probably.
Right. But he's so dumb, saying shit like, oh, don't ramp this up in your head like I'm gonna go park my bike and attack the chick. No.
That's exactly what you did, probably.
He said he decided to try and get his bike home anyway.
Okay.
Just started it, rode it away, so it would quit on him again and again until he got home around 10 p.m.
Okay.
But he continued saying really stupid things. Like, and this is all on recording. He goes, I'm not out here killing chicks, dude. I've had a number of girlfriends. I'm trying to get one started online a little bit right now, and she's been out here. And guess what? She went home alive.
Okay. Murderers kill people all the time while they have a wife at home. Like,
I
what?
know, right? By saying that, like having a girl at his house and her leaving alive was proof that he didn't hurt Sierra.
Yeah, and these cops have seen it all. They're like, whatever. Wow, he's just like basically admitting to them right now that he hurt her.
Exactly. He's really, really bad at diverting their thoughts. It was a sad attempt to take suspicion off him, but it only put it on him.
He does not perform well under pressure.
And you don't sit there talking about how you don't kill chicks to cops, especially when they weren't asking.
No, they just came out. They're just knocking doors. And he's like, I don't know about that chick that I saw in the bike in the cornfield when I got off my motorcycle.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have killed her. No.
I mean,
dumb.
But
that's good. That means he'll probably get caught, hopefully.
Yeah. Like the cop said, he likes to talk and he does not know when to shut the fuck up.
I can't handle people like that.
Thankfully. He was asking them questions.
Okay.
Like, did you find my fingerprints on a bike or something?
What the fuck?
He said that he picked one up and he was thinking of riding it home.
Okay.
But then decided against it.
Okay.
And he wouldn't stop trying to control the situation like a complete fucking loser, saying, so are my fingerprints on these bikes? I'm asking you a direct question and I expect a direct answer.
They're not going to tell you, bro. He's never watched a cop show.
No. He pretended to be concerned about Sierra, which just makes you feel so gross inside.
Yeah.
But he knew it. Like, I think he felt like they went to his house directly and like tied him to something, but they didn't.
They literally just walked over
exactly.
there.
It had nothing to do with you. And now it's all about you.
And now all arrows are pointing right to his house.
He said this one thing about Sierra and it makes you want to go kill this guy. He goes, well, what do I say? It's the world we live in.
What?
But it wasn't me.
You're the evil living in the world, dude.
Yes. The cops are playing along at this point. Before showing up at this house, they had no leads. But now he is the main suspect.
Suspect number 1.
And no words needed to be exchanged between them. They knew. It was clear. At some point, James even mentions having lost a few items when his motorcycle broke down. A screwdriver, some sunglasses, fuse boxes, and his helmet.
Everything they found.
None of those details had been released to the media, but they assured him that it was just normal procedure. They're going around to everyone asking these questions. He wasn't a suspect.
Okay.
So they tell him that they have everything they need. They thank him for his cooperation and they get up to leave. But James just doesn't know when to stop. So as he's walking them out, he just keeps yapping.
Oh, God.
And he says, I do the best I can each day with what I got, which ain't much, but I'm not out there stealing chicks, robbing chicks, stealing people.
Oh my God. And if you happen to find my helmet, fuse box, screwdriver,
exactly,
just let me know.
It's funny, but it's fucked up.
It's really fucked up.
And this was the guy. But who is James Worley? They needed to find out fast.
Yes.
And they needed a search warrant for his property.
Yeah, get him in custody before he runs.
So James Worley was born April 8th, 1959 in Tacoma, Washington.
Okay.
His father, also named James, was a U.S. Army officer, and he was an alcoholic and an abuser.
Okay.
Surprise. When young James was 5, his mother, Florence, divorced his father.
Mm-hmm.
He had siblings. I think he has a sister and a brother. I might be wrong on that. I actually did not care that much to look into him. Although I did, upon researching something else, find out that his sister was an officer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, not with the same county, but somewhere else. I think on the West Coast, actually.
Huh.
But his mom, Florence, met someone else. They got married and she moved them to the Midwest.
Okay.
James would end up graduating from the same high school Sierra did, Evergreen High School. but this was in 1978.
Right.
It's unclear how he managed to graduate, though, because he had a 1.59 grade point average.
Oh, wow.
So maybe they were just probably trying to get rid of him.
They just didn't want to listen to him anymore. The teachers were
Probably.
like, I need this kid out of my class. He talks all the time.
He was a loner in school, which isn't surprising. And he was known for using and selling marijuana since he was a teenager.
Okay.
I think there is a lot missing on him.
Yeah.
I think that he is responsible for much more than what he's been charged for. And I'm going to go into that. It turns out that he has a history of attacking girls.
Oh, no.
And one very interesting one is exactly like Sierah because he attacked a girl on a bike.
Okay.
On July 4th, 1990, he ambushed a 26-year-old Robin Gardner while she was riding her bike on OB Road in White House, Ohio, which was about 20 minutes from where Sierah would live 26 years later.
Oh.
Robin lived with her mother at the time. She was waiting for their annual neighborhood picnic to start, and she was bored, so she decided to go for a bike ride.
Mm-hmm.
This was around noon that day. She didn't go far, about a mile, before deciding to turn around and head home after a car passed her. It was James.
Oh.
He turned around too, and he hit her bike with his car.
Oh, my God.
And made her crash into the ditch.
Worst nightmare.
He approached her asking if she was okay, pretending to care.
Oh.
Like it was an accident. He didn't see her.
Okay.
So she's trying to stand up. She picked up her bike and was trying to orient herself when he came up to her quickly and hit her over the head with a hammer.
Oh, my God.
She almost blacked out. Things were going dark, but she tried standing up again. She was really dizzy. And he grabbed her and he got her in a chokehold and put a screwdriver up to her throat. He warned her to get into the truck and to stop screaming or that he was going to kill her.
Okay.
And he was a big guy. He's 6'1", 6'2", and he's a hefty dude.
Oh, so she had no chance.
Yeah, she's like 5'1".
Mm-hmm.
And she's trying to stay conscious.
Oh, my God.
It reminds me of Marissa and Dominic Akers.
So much. Yeah, because she was tiny thing and he was huge. It sucks. Like we know we can't run. We can't go for walks. We can't even ride a bike because I feel safer on a bike as a woman.
I know, because you feel like you can get away.
And then I hear these stories and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to be on a bike unless I'm in an area where I know there's tons of people around.
Exactly.
But then that's dangerous because there's cars.
I know.
Like, we can't exist. Oh, this breaks my heart.
So she didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So she, even though he told her to stop, just screamed. She screamed as loud as she could and she kept screaming.
Good.
He dragged her to the truck and he threw her inside. He grabbed handcuffs out of the glove box and he got one on her right wrist and she was panicking. She knew she couldn't let him get it on her other wrist. So she lunged forward and grabbed the steering wheel with her left hand and just started fighting back.
Good.
And what she did saved her life. She was causing such a commotion. He couldn't get the truck going and a guy on a motorcycle happened to be driving by.
Okay.
He wasn't sure what was going on, but there's this car stopped and he's hearing the screaming. So he stopped and she was able to somehow get away from him. She still had the handcuffs on, but she was able to get away from him and jumped on the back of the motorcycle. And the guy he registered it. He knew what was going on and they sped off.
Damn.
And he took her home. Yes, very lucky.
Wow.
Thank God for that guy.
That was her guardian angel that day.
That's
she
what
wasn't
she
meant
calls
to die.
him.
Mm-hmm.
Police went to the scene of where it happened after talking to her and were very surprised to find him still sitting in his truck on the road.
Oh my God.
Probably stunned that she got away.
He's like America's dumbest criminal.
Seems like it, but
he's getting away with it.
He's getting away with stuff. He was arrested.
The fact that he had a set of handcuffs in his glove box means he's just trolling.
He's ready.
He's looking for this shit. That's so scary.
It's very scary. At the time, he was 31 and took a plea to an abduction charge, which sucks because he was sentenced to 4 to 10 years in prison, but he served only 3 years.
Always.
Which is just
these
crazy
stories.
to me.
I know.
What do you think he was planning to do to her? Let her go?
Right. It wasn't going to be good.
And that one incident changed her life forever.
Of course, she can't trust anything now. She probably can't go anywhere without being afraid for the rest of her life.
She's scared to be alone. She needs to have someone with her at all times. She moved as far away as she could to California just to try and have some semblance of a normal life. I'm just happy she got away.
Me too.
But the red flags were there with him nearly 3 decades before, and I will go into it later. But there were other major red flags that came up in between her attempted abduction and Sierra's.
Right. I feel like I just want to like hit the wall right now because we hear this in every single case we do.
I know.
These guys just keep getting chances to hurt more people.
They don't get
more
better.
Women, especially.
Yeah, women.
It's always women because, you know, I just did the rerun of the I-5 Killer and re-listening to that. And I was infuriated at how many times Randy Woodfield got away with shit.
All the fucking time. And just like with Dominic Akers, like there's no rehabilitation for these people.
They're sick and they need out of society.
They're bad. So while looking into his past and finding that out, Fulton County was working on getting the warrant to search his property. And what they would discover sucks. They showed up a second time at his place. They didn't have the warrant yet, but they knew that they had to get moving on it and took a shot at seeing if he would cooperate with the search.
Okay.
Again, he answers the door. This time he's wet. He just got out of the shower or something.
Ew.
He's agitated. He's nervous. He says, okay, so you guys got some suspicions for something here.
Okay.
One of the officers mentions his helmet.
Yeah.
James pretends like, oh, good.
You found it?
He says, well, bring it on here because I want my helmet back. Then they tell him that they found blood on it. And his response was just, well, no.
You didn't.
Gotcha. He agrees to let them in to search the house for Sierra. But when they tell him that they want to go search his barn, his demeanor changes.
Okay.
He still complies, but he tries distracting them from it.
Okay.
As they walked up to the barn door glass was blacked out with black spray paint, which was the only way to see inside from the outside. So already suspicious.
Right.
Why do you need that in the middle of nowhere?
Exactly.
Once inside, James was doing everything he could to get them to leave the barn.
Okay.
Complaining about the heat, trying to get them to move onto another part of the property.
Right.
But they noticed that the barn floor had just recently been raked, which told them that he was cleaning something up.
Right.
And they could smell bleach.
Yeah.
The barn was the furthest building from the house, meaning whoever was home, like his mom or his brother, they probably couldn't hear anything that was going on in the barn.
Right.
And the cops realized this. And with the blacked out window and it being somewhat secluded behind some large trees and bushes, everyone had a sinking feeling. And thankfully, before James could try and cover anything else up, they got their warrant.
Oh, good.
So he was kicked out. They went back to the house where he had to answer more questions, and they went to work searching every bit of that barn.
Good.
In the north part of the barn, it was blocked off by a tower of hay bales. They started pulling those down, and in the middle of these bales was a large green crate.
Okay.
What was inside this crate was wild. There were a bunch of labeled bags and Ziplocs with different items in them.
Oh, no.
Bags labeled lace thongs, misspelled, leggings, hot shorts, stockings, pink lace teddy, go baby, tube tops, Daisy Dukes, thigh-high socks, panties, white romper, white beach dress, 3-piece outfit, black lace dress, and so on.
He was collecting trophies from his victims.
I don't think that's what they were.
Oh, he was using them to make the girls dress up.
There was also duct tape, bondage clothing, restraints, rope, adult diapers, a sex toy.
Was he making videos?
I'll come back to that because he'll say that.
Okay.
When he was questioned about all these things, he said that his reasoning for having those bags in his barn was that he gives those things out as gifts to his girlfriends.
In a Ziploc bag.
He didn't give up with this crap. He said, what's wrong with getting stuff to treat girls? They like that shit. Like, be for real. He said,
dude.
If I was going to go out and rape and kill whatever, a chick or whatever, how in the hell would I use that much lingerie? I buy stuff that I think girls would like to have. I mean, I've had a pretty good sex life my whole life, and all the girls are still alive, Dan, by the way.
Yeah, says someone who's not suspicious at all. They're alive. Believe me, they're all alive. What the fuck? I would want to like punch this guy in the face if I was an officer, and I'm sure they all do. They just want to like strangle him.
I
like,
bet they couldn't wait to, and they
watch him
couldn't
fry.
Exactly. This barn was his, I don't know, it was his torture chamber fantasy for an abducted girl.
Right.
Instead of House of Horrors. It was the barn of horrors.
Oh my God.
One of the more interesting things that they found in that crate that was initially completely hidden by the bales of hay all around it, and on top of it was a freshly made sandwich in a sandwich bag.
Okay. So she's still alive?
All of his concealing and cleaning was very recent.
Okay.
And maybe why he needed a shower. It led them to believe that Sierra was being held in that barn.
Yes.
Possibly when they initially questioned him, and after that first visit, he moved her.
Oh no.
They were so close.
Fuck. They could have saved her maybe at that point.
They could have saved her.
And then he probably killed her because he knew they were on his tail.
Yeah.
Those poor officers.
If I had an inkling that he was the one that took her, and I think this is where the cops fucked up.
Yeah.
I would have kept an officer on his property, like in their car. Until a warrant was available, just so that he didn't have time to go to the barn, time to do things, or they would see him do it.
Right.
I think that they should have staked him out in that way.
Yes. Instead, they just left and started researching him. And that cost her life, probably. She probably was alive.
I think so.
Oh my God. That's heartbreaking for the family and even the officers. I'm sure they feel guilty.
I mean, I watched documentaries on her and stuff, and no one says it that way, but that's immediately what I think about is them showing up is what led him to
kill her
because
he probably would have kept her indefinitely. He has a whole crate of things that he wanted to
hold on to someone for at least a while, not a day. So while they continued to search the barn, evidence came in from Evergreen High School's security cameras, catching James Worley driving past in his truck, heading back to where Sierra was abducted. It is believed that he somehow incapacitated her on the side of the road in the cornfield, went home on his bike, switched to his truck, and then went back and got her.
I was wondering how he put her on the bike.
James says he went back to look for his helmet. He always had an answer for everything.
Yep. He talks too much.
He talks way too much, but also not enough, not about the right things. Once they got every bale of hay out of that barn, they found a piece of plywood on the floor with holes in it.
Oh.
Everyone thought, oh shit, we found her.
She's under there.
They didn't want to find her, but they wanted to find her. That's the point.
Right.
Lifting it up, in the ground was a large chest freezer.
Oh.
Big enough for a person to be in it.
Okay.
They were terrified to open it, but when they did, she wasn't there.
Okay.
But someone used to be.
Oh.
The inside was rank of bleach. The walls and the floor of the freezer were lined in brown carpet, and the carpet was saturated with blood.
Oh, wow.
Later, they would find blood splatter on the walls of the barn as well.
Oh.
And this fucking guy, when questioned about the freezer, his answer was, dude, that's my dope stash spot. I grow weed, I smoke weed, and that's it. I don't buy the shit.
What the fuck?
He just, again, he doesn't give answers. He talks too much.
I was expecting him to say, oh, that's where I put the deer that I kill or something like that.
Exactly. In the floor.
Yeah.
Under hay bales. Obviously, the cops don't buy anything he says, but they still have to ask him questions. And the cops were almost to the point of wanting to beg him to tell them where she was.
Right.
But he held strong and he denied. And they continued to find more stuff. What they considered to be kidnap kits that included zip ties that were pre-started.
Oh, no.
Short lengths of rope that were taped together in bundles.
Oh.
Some of the pre-started zip ties were found under his floor mats in his truck.
Ugh.
Just for quick
so
grabs.
Scary.
His motorcycle had weeds stuck to it, like from part of the corn stalk.
Right.
On his bike, they found 2 sets of handcuffs, handcuff keys, zip ties, and a bottle of bleach.
Oh my God.
He seemed like he was ready to go wherever he was.
He's just waiting for the opportunity at any moment to take someone.
Yes. It was a concern that not only was he suspected of taking and doing something with Sierra, but that he was possibly a serial offender.
Absolutely, I think.
Did he have other victims that they didn't know about?
Yes.
So finally, on the morning of the 3rd day since her disappearance, they officially arrested him.
Good.
They were hoping that he would finally tell them where she was, but instead he acted like he was being held there, without his permission, and that he deserved more respect. So he
needed his rights.
Exactly. He expected their compliance and giving him his own room with a good bed so he could get a good night's sleep in.
Fuck you, guy.
He's ridiculous. Sierra's family was still hopeful
that she's alive.
Yeah, but defeated. It had been 3 days.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to find her alive, but from everything they had found, they knew now that it wasn't likely. And even though this was a small town and almost everyone knew everyone, Sierra's family had never heard of James Worley.
Oh, wow.
Because I told you it's like town. He lived in the neighboring town. I think it was Swanton. While in custody, they continued to find out more about his past. He was tied to another missing persons case.
Not surprising.
That of Claudia Tensley, who went missing September 8th, 1996 in Toledo.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
James was actually the one to bring her up in an interview.
Oh.
None of the cops or agents were familiar with her case. What compelled him to bring her up, I have no idea. But he said something along the lines of, "Oh, the police think she's one of my victims."
Okay, thanks for letting us know.
Claudia was 24 years old. She was tall and beautiful. Family and friends called her Sissy, and she was a sweetheart. She lived with her mother, and she had 3 children of her own.
Oh.
She got into some bad stuff from time to time. She was using, and it is alleged that she was working as a sex worker.
Okay.
But she was still a present mother, and her going MIA was not like her.
Okay.
Her family didn't know about the possible prostitution, but knew that when she wasn't sober, she would make bad decisions.
Right.
They knew about the drugs and that she was a stripper.
Mm-hmm.
She was trying to get by, and she did things for money.
Right.
On September 8th, 1996, Claudia was getting ready to leave the house where she lived on Baker Street in Toledo, and her mom asked where she was going.
Mm-hmm.
She said she was going with some guy. I'm not sure exactly what she said, really, but she pointed down the street to a vehicle where a man was waiting for her. She admitted to her mother about feeling uneasy about the guy.
Okay.
And asked her mother to take down his license plate.
Damn.
Just in case she didn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
We can't know what the relationship was like between her mother and her.
Right.
And if her mother had any power to stop her from going if she felt like something was off with this guy. But her mother did write it down, and off she went. There is another version of the story where James actually went inside the house for like 10 minutes, and her mother was the one that felt uneasy and then took down the license plate. But the first version is actually what's listed on the missing persons report with the Ohio Attorney General. So
yeah, that's probably accurate.
Claudia never came home. And to this day, she is still a missing person,
Okay.
assumed dead. Her mother did report her missing right away and gave police the license plate number she took down.
Mm-hmm.
The number was tied back to James Worley, and it actually tied back to a leasing company in the car he was renting at the time.
Okay.
About a week after she went missing, he was brought in for questioning. He admitted having her in his car and that they drove around for a while, like 40 minutes. He paid her for an act of some kind, and then he dropped her off at another location. With no body, no evidence of anything otherwise, they had no choice but to let him go.
Oh.
Unless he confessed, they had nothing.
Right.
They knew of his prior conviction with Robin, though, and did what they could to keep an eye on him and convict him of something, because they did feel like
He was up to something.
Yes.
No good.
somehow they got a warrant to check his property for Claudia in April of 2000.
Okay.
They believed that he had buried her on his property or something
Mhm.
like that. And even though a cadaver dog got a hint of something, they did not find her. But they did find some marijuana plants and some weapons. So they
Took him in.
convicted him of those things, which were both felonies at the time.
Uh-huh.
And he did 2 years for that
Okay.
and was out again. So they're trying to put him away.
But they don't have enough evidence to get him in for a long term.
Right. And the other issue is here is even though it's all like one general area, like within an hour kind of
Mhm.
of each other, like cops in different areas knew about him, but then some didn't. And I get it. Not every single cop and station's going to know every single person who's done something.
Right.
But he was getting away with stuff. So that's possible victim number 3. She was never found.
And the cadaver dogs found something. Who knows how many other victims
I know,
could be
that is
buried on
the
this guy's land,
Scariest thing ever.
especially if he goes after sex workers.
Yes.
Like, that's one of the biggest targets for killers for that reason.
Yep. And one sad thing about her is one of her children died the next year, like after she went missing, in an accidental fire.
Oh.
Just really sad. I don't have the details about that. And then also her mom died in 2018, having no answers.
That's torture.
She wrote down his license plate number, knowing this was a bad situation, and she actually did not come home.
Like, how would you ever forgive yourself as a mom, like knowing your daughter already was like, I'm kind of worried that you didn't say, no, stay here with me.
Well, she
You don't
probably
have
did.
to.
Like
But
I
she
said,
felt like she had to. She needed the money, or
Yes,
maybe she
yeah.
was in the midst of her drug addiction.
she
We don't
might
know.
have been very strong-willed. And like
Yeah.
I said, maybe she wouldn't have listened to her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And she can't physically restrain her.
No.
So
And when
You
your
have to give
child's
yourself some
an
grace.
adult, yeah,
exactly. It has been suggested online that she was the victim of another serial killer in the area that did target just sex workers. I couldn't find an exact name linked to reports of her, but in a quick search, damn.
There's a lot.
Ohio is scary. So much has come out of that state. Ariel Castro.
How could I forget Ariel
I know.
Castro? That's like
I
one
did
of our
too.
most popular cases.
I forgot it was Ohio, though. I forgot that.
He was in Cleveland.
Yeah,
And he was disgusting.
very disgusting. There's also Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer was Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I think he was Texas?
I don't know. Maybe he moved around a bit.
I think that's where he was in prison, was Texas.
Oh, Donald Harvey, the Angel of Death guy. Samuel Little, Anthony and Nathaniel Cook. The list goes on and on.
Damn.
For the time period she went missing, I would suspect, if we want to link her to someone else, a serial killer that goes by the name of Dr. No.
I don't know him.
He targeted sex workers and was active in Ohio from 1981 to 2004.
Okay.
It's scary how many of these guys are out there. But what are the chances that she spends time with James Worley and another serial killer grabs her right after? No.
No,
It was him. And so far, he's gotten away with it. And I really do not think that she was only one of three. I think he is responsible for much, much more.
Yes.
I believe James Worley is a serial killer and may have been doing this for decades. Good news is he won't get away with what he did to Sierra.
Good.
But there are possibly countless other victims
Who knows?
whose families won't see justice.
There's so many missing people in the world.
I know. But let's get back to her because it's day 3 and she is still missing and needs to be found. Everyone is still out searching for her, scouring every field they can. I know a lot has happened and I've gone over a lot already, but it is still day 3. Well,
Yeah.
the third full day.
Right.
It's July 22nd and they get a call. It was a farmer and he found a disturbance in his cornfield.
Okay.
He was driving along his road and saw a broken cornstalk, which on any other day, that's probably normal, but everybody's searching for her, so
Right.
everything is suspicious. This location was 2 miles from James Worley's home.
Okay.
He got out and investigated a little and found a freshly dug area in the field
Wow.
and called it in.
Okay.
Agents were sent out to exhume the ground. The clock was ticking.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly, they discovered that it couldn't be a grave because it didn't go very deep.
Okay.
So they banded out and started looking for anything else because there was no explanation for that
Why?
random hole in this guy's field. They made it to the other side of that field to another road and found more pushed down corn stalks and another freshly dug area. It appeared that something had been dragged for about 20 to 25 yards to
Oh.
that spot.
Okay.
So they started digging carefully. After digging for a bit, they knew they found something because there was that smell,
Oh my God.
decomposition, and it was Sierra.
Okay.
Poor sweet girl.
Poor thing.
Fucking heartbreaking. I can't tell you how many times I was talking to Kendra before this that I got emotional doing the research for this
Yeah.
because she was so loved. You got
Mhm.
to know her. And so,
Right.
like, I'm even tearing
And
up
for
right
it-
now.
And for this to be her end,
Yes,
it's just
it's heartbreaking. This was around 6 p.m. They slowed down and carefully exhumed her with hand shovels, layer by layer, in 95-degree heat. At the start, anyway, it took 5 hours going into the night, which was apparently very quick
Oh,
compared to how
okay.
long it usually takes. But everyone digging her out was devastated that
Yeah.
their search for her ended in that crude grave and just wanted to get her out as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
She was buried hogtied,
Oh my God.
duct taped, and handcuffed with her wrists behind her back, bound to her ankles with rope, and she was gagged.
Oh my God.
She was gagged forcibly with a large cone-shaped dog toy
Oh my God.
and with such force that it broke one of her teeth. It was secured by a shoelace that was tied around her head. She was found wearing only a lace bra and an adult diaper. With the precise time of her death unable to be determined, her official death was declared by the medical examiners on site at 9 p.m. that night
Okay.
while she was being unearthed. After they were able to completely get her out, she was immediately bagged and transported for an autopsy. Her family and Josh were all together when they got the call.
Oh my God.
They were all out in the front yard of Sierra's grandmother's home, and it was an eruption of screams.
Of course.
Everyone was sobbing, falling to their knees. The despair was palpable.
Right.
Everyone could feel it, and no one could comfort each other.
No,
They're all feeling
going through
their
it.
own pain. I just can't imagine what they felt.
And when you know something is happening to a loved one, you know that they were murdered, you want it to have been over quickly, and knowing the way she was found just adds another layer to it.
Absolutely.
We know that he was doing horrible things to her right up until the end.
While they suffered and grieved her loss, authorities focused on making sure that the case was tight and that the prosecution had everything they needed to make sure that he received the harshest sentence possible for what he did.
Yes.
The autopsy would reveal a head wound and skull fracture that caused significant bleeding for some time, which they believe was caused by being struck with his motorcycle helmet.
Oh, the blood, yeah.
But it did not contribute to her death.
Okay.
She had other bruising and abrasions that suggested violent struggle. Sierra ultimately died from asphyxiation.
Okay.
The dog toy filled Sierra's oral cavity, and it's estimated by the medical examiner that it took her 10 minutes to die.
Damn.
I pray to God that she was unconscious for this. And after some research, the totality of evidence strongly suggests that Sierra was initially conscious and struggling during the gag's insertion.
Yeah.
And the early stages of suffocation, losing consciousness within 2 to 4 minutes as cerebral hypoxia progresses.
Well, hypoxia is supposed to be a kinder way to go, so hopefully.
So even though it took her 10 minutes to die, after a couple of minutes, she would have passed out.
And it's supposed to be more like euphoric feeling, so hopefully she just kind of fell asleep. Let's hope that.
I hope, but it's still horrific. One good thing came from the autopsy, and that is that there was no evidence of sexual assault.
Good. He hadn't gotten that far.
Now, there are theories here. We kind of went over it a little bit. Did he just not have time to sexually assault her?
Right.
The Barnes suggested that he wanted to keep her for some time. The sandwich might have been for her that they found.
That's what I'm guessing.
The diaper tells me that's the case too.
Yes.
I think the cops coming by sped up his plans.
Yep.
It's possible he didn't mean to kill her when he did either.
Oh, when he put the gag in, he was just trying to...
Yeah, he's really into BDSM stuff. He probably shoved it in her mouth.
Not realizing it was
yes,
suffocating. That's very possible.
It's possible. I think he was really angry with the whole situation or something. And he stuffed it in her mouth, left, came back, and maybe found her dead.
I mean, I hope that's the case for her, because then she didn't have to go through all the other nasty shit he probably would have done to her.
And maybe we can look at it that way.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean he wasn't going to eventually kill her.
No,
it's
he
just
was going to have to.
Yes.
Like, you can't kidnap, but he could have kept her alive for years for all we know.
Exactly.
Could have been another Ariel Castro situation where I'm sure many times those girls wish they had a quick death.
I know. He was officially indicted by a grand jury on August 16th, 2016. He was indicted on 19 felony counts, including 2 counts of aggravated murder and kidnapping. The indictment included the charge of purposefully causing Joughin's death while committing or attempting to commit kidnapping.
Mm-hmm.
Each aggravated murder count included 2 death penalty specifications. One specification alleged that he committed the murder in the course of a kidnapping. The other alleged that the purpose of the murder was to escape detection, apprehension, trial, or punishment for the kidnapping.
Right.
At his arraignment, he entered a plea of not guilty to all charges. Prosecutors were seeking the death penalty.
Good.
After 2 delays in September of 2017 and January of 2018, and hundreds of potential jurors called, the trial started in March of 2018 at the Fulton County Common Pleas Court, with Judge Jeffrey Robinson presiding over the case. Her family had to wait over a year and a half to see that justice was handed out.
Right.
The timeline of the abduction was presented as a chance encounter, but that Worley had every intention of abducting someone.
Obviously, with his kidnap kits.
Sierra just happened to be the unlucky victim that day.
Yeah.
It was random opportunity, but he was ready for a victim at any moment.
Yes.
Based on findings of his movements that day, it was pieced together that after she and Josh split up, at some point he passed Sierra on his motorcycle, got up ahead of her, parked his bike in the cornfield, and waited.
Oh.
When she got to his location, he jumped out of the field and struck her with the helmet.
Scary. Like she didn't see it coming.
No. He then hit her and her bike, left on his bike, went and got his truck, and went back to get her.
Mm-hmm.
Then he brought her back to his barn. It is believed that she was tied up and died there before he disposed of her body in that field. And again, it still just breaks my heart that she was probably alive in that barn when those cops showed up that first time.
She probably was.
During the trial, more evidence came out tying him to the crime. Sierra's DNA was found on rope, duct tape, paper towels, and a pair of pink underwear inside the barn. There was blood on those as well. Defensive wounds were found on his body from her fighting back.
Yeah.
His DNA was on her bike and her. The men's sunglasses, the screwdriver, the helmet, the fuse boxes were all confirmed to be his.
Right.
Near her grave, they found, and this is so fucked up, they found human feces.
What?
This motherfucker took a shit out there after he buried her.
Ew.
Yes, ew. Still, he turned to the audience there at his trial, and it's on video, which included her family and friends, stared at everyone straight in the eyes and acted like the victim.
Fuck him.
And that he was being framed.
Fuck off.
Just despicable. Every scene of the crime had both of their DNA.
Right.
The abduction site, the barn, her gravesite. And this is beautiful and sad. Robin Gardner, who was one of his attempted victims,
Yes.
faced her fears and she faced him.
Good.
She testified in court about her experience with him. She was terrified, but she felt strongly that she needed to be a voice for Sierra and make sure that he was put away for good.
Good.
Both of their abductions involved bicycles.
Yep.
Both were struck in the head. Both had use of a screwdriver as a
Right.
weapon of threat. Both were handcuffed with a distinctive type of handcuff that could not be removed with keys available to law enforcement.
Oh, why do those exist?
I know, because people like him exist and there's
True.
fuckers that are as fucked up as him.
That create these things.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There was also digital evidence. Cell phone records showed him being at the place of her abduction for 2 hours. On his home computer, there were searches for pornography that included terms like hogtied teen, rape, stranded, helpless.
Ugh, gross.
For all the stuff in his barn, all the fantasy items, he claimed that he was going to start a porn studio and that's not a crime. Nobody wants to go to your fucking barn, dude.
Ew.
No.
So he was searching that so he could start his porn studio?
That's what he says.
Real convenient.
The defense tried to bring in 2 lifelong friends of his and hoping that it would help his case, and it really didn't. They're just as fucked up, to be honest.
Who's friends with him?
I know. One confirmed that the helmet was Worley's.
Yeah.
He'd actually bought it for him a few years before that.
Okay.
The other confirmed Worley's porn studio dreams and that his bike had electrical issues, but that it never left him stranded.
Okay.
Because that's Worley's whole thing is I got stranded.
Yes.
That's why all my stuff is there. And his friends essentially came in and were like,
No.
well, no.
I don't think so.
Oh, wait, I'm trying to help him.
Oh, I forgot which side I'm on. They were probably going to go in on the porn studio with him. Who knows?
Probably. The defense lawyers did all they could to provide reasonable doubt because his DNA wasn't found on everything.
Oh, okay. The 1 or 2 things.
Big stretch, boys. In the end, the evidence was overwhelming.
Yes.
Anything the defense tried to say, the jury just wasn't having it. On March 28, 2018, after less than 6 hours of deliberation, he was found guilty on all 19 charges. 2 were later dropped. I don't know why, but it really doesn't matter. Her family was happy with that, but it wasn't anything to celebrate because it didn't bring her back.
Right. I mean, you want this guy off the street so no other family goes through it, but it's never going to make up for anything.
At his sentencing, because he was up for the death penalty, his lawyers tried to convince the jury of life imprisonment because he was, quote, a damaged man.
I don't care.
They brought on criminal psychologist Dr. John Fabian, who suggested the attack was motivated by sexual sadism connected with a fetish disorder. Like, that excuses him.
Right. People have those fetishes and don't go around kidnapping and killing women.
He stated that Worley had multiple mental health issues and had diagnosed him with sexual paraphilia disorder. Again,
doesn't
not
excuse.
An excuse. Yeah. Worley's defense, now accepting the fact that he did kill Sierra, tried to claim that he had an unnamed accomplice.
What?
And that he has or had an incestuous relationship with his mother before her death. So she died at some point. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably possible.
I mean, it's
That's
possible.
Gross,
but again, it doesn't matter. The prosecution dismissed their claims. Evidence pointed only to one person being involved. They stated that the gravesite was dug hastily, requiring only one person, and that there was little evidence to support an inappropriate relationship between him and his mother, which, whatever.
We don't care either way. Except that would be horrible if she didn't do that and people are saying it.
I know, because she's dead and she can't defend herself.
Yeah, exactly.
She tried. She got away from an abusive person.
Yeah.
He was just already fucked up. And I did find that at one point in his teenage years, he went back to live with his dad for a while. So he didn't have good role models.
No.
I mean, we don't know who his mom was.
No.
The point is none of that gets you a lesser sentence.
No.
He's dangerous and he's evil.
I guess they were just trying to keep him out of prison and put him in a mental hospital instead.
I think his lawyers were simply trying to get him away from the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
The jury recommended capital punishment, and it was upheld by the judge in April of 2018. His death day was set for June 3rd, 2019. Of course, it was appealed and it was delayed. The defense arguments were honestly arguments that his mental issues weren't taken into account, which sure, but you honestly weren't even talking about him in that way during the first trial.
No.
You said he was innocent, and now you're saying, okay, yeah, he
No,
killed her, but
he's just mentally unwell.
Of course, they brought up the jurors, which I agree. I mean, it's hard to have a fair trial when you live in a small town.
But the evidence is overwhelming.
So it doesn't matter.
The DNA is all there. This isn't a circumstantial,
he fucking
controversial
shit at the crime scene.
That, number one, it's nobody else could have put that out there. You were there.
Someone framed me. They went and got my poop out of the toilet.
Yeah, no.
Come on, give me a break.
And drove out to where they knew you were. Whatever.
So his execution date was rescheduled. He is not dead yet.
Oh, damn.
As of now, it is set for May 20th of this year.
Oh, okay. We'll see.
So it's coming up. And this is one of those cases where he does need to go, good riddance. He's still trying, though. I think he has one federal appeal left. And in hearing about a 2020 episode that was coming out about everything, he wrote several media stations, a 100-page manifesto letter.
Nobody wants to read that, dude.
Claiming his innocence. I don't know what he had to say. I don't know what would take 100 pages.
That's one. Yeah, nobody wants to read that.
But too bad, so sad. You're fucking evil, and you are where you deserve to be.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned before, I think James is a
serial killer,
a prolific serial killer.
Yeah.
And so do a lot of other people.
Okay.
When I came upon Sierra's case, I had no idea the rabbit hole that I was going to go down looking into him.
Yeah.
I really didn't. I thought she was killed by somebody. I did not know that there was a backstory there. His other potential victims honestly deserve their own episodes, but I'm telling this story now. And honestly, when it comes to some unsolved cases, sometimes there just isn't enough information out there. So I'm going to go through a little list now, taking a little detour from Sierra, and then we'll get back to her. I'm going to give as much detail as I can, but I also am going to keep it fairly quick at the same time.
Okay.
Once Sierra went missing and what happened to her was well known, some internet sleuths went to work and started connecting some dots. I found a thread on Web Sleuths that suggests a list of other possible victims, and it starts in the 80s.
Oh, God.
When he was in his 20s.
Not surprising.
Which tracks for a serial killer.
Yes.
And this is just keeping in mind his residence in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, he was a truck driver.
Oh, God, that's scary.
He did have a passport. I don't know if he ever left anywhere. So there's potentially a much bigger list than what I'm going to present. But until his entire story can be mapped out, can really only focus on those known to be somewhat near him at the time of their disappearance or murder. So that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
And I'm going to start with the earliest one. And I'm only going to cover 6 of them and list off some others that have been mentioned.
Okay.
The 6 I'm mentioning, I have more details on. First is 30-year-old Bobby Lee Wells. She went missing February 13th, 1980, after leaving her home near Detroit for a flight to Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay.
She never made it on the flight, and it took a few days for people to consider her missing or realize it. This was 1980, and she was 30.
Right.
She was reported missing on the 16th to Taylor, Michigan police, and 2 months later, on April 13th, her body was discovered in Fulton County off County Road F between roads 2 and 3.
Okay.
She was wrapped in a sheet with duct tape.
Mm.
The cause of death was blunt force trauma with 2 blows to the back of the head, and her body was beaten as well with what they said was a hammer.
Oh, okay.
Where she was found was just a few miles from his home.
Yep.
This is the same home with the barn.
Oh.
He had this home for decades.
Okay.
He did work in other areas like around Toledo, so he did travel from this home to go do other stuff.
Yeah.
But he has lived at this house for 30 plus years.
Okay.
More than that. I don't know if it was maybe his mother's before that. Yeah, I don't know. This was at County Road L and Road 6. That's where his house was. And there was only a 6-minute drive between the 2 locations of where she was found. But it's an hour and a half between Detroit and Fulton County.
Yeah, how'd she get there?
So how did she get there? There was an assumption that instead of going to Alabama for whatever reason she was going there for, that she decided to run away. And I think that that's just an excuse. Like, she wasn't a teenager.
No,
she was
she's 30.
I think James was in her area for whatever reason.
And saw her.
Took her back to his place before disposing of her.
Yep.
He did work for this one guy, Mark Fauble, over the years. I guess they knew each other since high school. And he worked as a driver for this small trucking company.
Okay.
So he could have been anywhere.
Yeah. Truck drivers are the scariest when it comes to thinking about serial killers.
I know.
You can't track them very easily.
I know. And I'm not sure if it's during this time. That's the hard thing about him. Like, we need his history mapped out because he worked on and off for him. So
yeah,
it could have been at any time. He was one of those guys who just did multiple odd jobs. Anything that did not require an education or a specific set of skills.
Right.
He would keep them short term and go on to something else. Like, that's what he did his whole life. At the time of Bobby's murder, he was 21 years old. So that's where we are starting.
Okay.
The next one isn't necessarily on someone's list, but it was on Web Sleuth's map of unsolved cases, so I'm going to mention it. She was known only as the Buckskin Girl for 37 years before they were able to identify her.
Okay.
Her name is Marcia Lenore Sosaman King. She disappeared from Little Rock, Arkansas in 1980, but was thought to have run away and was living a transient lifestyle. She was found in a ditch alongside Greenlee Road in Newton Township, Troy, Ohio on April 24th, 1981.
Okay.
Before she was identified, she got the name of Buckskin Girl because she was found wearing a distinctive buckskin poncho.
Okay.
Police do not think that she was living on the street at the time because she was well kept other than her injuries. Her autopsy revealed that she had suffered extensive blunt force trauma to the head and neck before she had been strangled to death approximately 48 hours before her body was discovered. And it is believed that she was killed elsewhere and dumped there.
Okay. She
She was clothed but did not have socks or shoes on, and there was no evidence of sexual assault. Some investigators have linked her to who they think is an unidentified serial killer in the area, possibly the Dr. No I mentioned before, who remains at large.
That's scary.
Or is dead. Hopefully he's dead.
Hopefully he's dead because he started in the 80s. He's got to be in his 70s by now.
Or it's James because, again, this was by him.
Yeah.
Next, we have Michelle Ann Hoffman. She was only 19 years old. She was last heard from on September 1st, 1981. I'm not positive why, but she wasn't reported missing for 2 weeks, not until the 15th.
Okay.
I believe she wasn't living at home, so I guess not hearing from her wasn't unusual, but when no one could find her or reach her, they reported it. She was found within a few minutes of where another girl was found later, which I'll come to in a minute. Her body was found in the back of a wooded area in Mulberry Park off Mulberry Street and Bancroft in Toledo.
Okay.
She was discovered by a man who was out hunting rabbits. This was September 17th, 1981, and the coroner estimated the date of death to be on or about September 2nd, so only a day later.
Okay.
The cause of death was determined to be blunt force trauma to the head. At the time, James was working in Toledo at Art Iron Inc., which is still there. Still running today. I'm not sure what he did there. Some kind of iron worker.
Okay.
But this location was within 10 minutes of the same park.
Okay.
Then we have Joanne Jaso. She was 27 years old and last seen by her neighbor on November 28th, 1983. After her family couldn't get in touch with her for some time, she was reported missing with the Toledo police on December 7th, 1983. On December 13th, a Fulton County deputy was flagged down by County Road 11 and County Road F by a witness stating he had found a nude body of a female lying in a ditch near the railroad tracks. She was found in, quote, partial clothing and her tennis shoes. I couldn't find the cause of death, but because I found this on a list linking her to James Worley, I'm going to assume that it was blunt force trauma and possibly strangulation. There does seem to be a pattern with him, and that is why these particular girls, along with where their bodies are found, have been linked to him.
Makes sense.
Because Joanne, again, was found only a few miles from his home in Fulton County.
So in his early days, he wasn't keeping the girls in the barn yet?
I think maybe he
did and then dumped them.
Who knows?
Yeah.
He's a person of opportunity, right? Maybe in the earlier years, he didn't have the same privacy with his brother and his mother, maybe up and about and in good health or whatever. So maybe the barn only became something later in life
that makes sense.
He had the privacy. Lorianne Hill is our next victim, and her family believes that James Worley is her murderer and are outspoken about it. There's a connection. Lori was born on November 9th, 1970. She was only 14 when she was murdered. She was last seen on Friday, October 25th, 1985 at around 10 p.m. That night, she went to her school's football game at Swanton High School and was planning to go to a Halloween party afterwards, but she got into a fight with her boyfriend and decided to walk home instead.
Oh.
She was supposed to be home by a certain time that night, but when she didn't show up, her parents immediately knew that something was wrong because she was a good kid and she was never late for curfew. Her parents started calling people to see if they knew where she was. At the same time, her older sister Rachel was getting home and they were all panicking. Rachel started calling into radio stations just in case her sister was listening to the radio to call us, come home.
Wow.
This is all that night within hours. Rachel and her father started driving around looking for her and stopped by where the party was. She wasn't there. An acquaintance named Steve saw Lori walking to Mr. G's pizza parlor on Main Street next to the railroad tracks in Swanton, Ohio, and gave her a ride.
Okay.
At Mr. G's, she made 2 phone calls and then started to walk home. It's not known who she called. It wasn't her parents. The last time Lori was seen was walking out of Mr. G's at 10 p.m., and again around the same time walking in the direction of home on Hallett Road Bridge, which from Mr. G's pizza parlor, it was approximately a 7-mile walk home. So it was not
That's a long
quick.
Yeah.
And on this walk, she had to pass Hub's Bar on the way home. This is important. I'm going to come back to it in a second. Lori Ann Hill was found on Tuesday, October 28th, 1985, in a cornfield on County Road M at Road 12 in Fulton County. Again, not far from Worley and some of the other victims. She was found naked and badly beaten, wearing only a jean jacket and 2 socks. She was discovered by a deer hunter. Her cause of death was multiple blunt force trauma to the head. Both Steven, the guy who drove her to the pizza place, and her boyfriend were cleared as suspects in her murder.
Okay.
There was another guy that was tried for her murder, but there wasn't enough evidence to stick to him, and it was a hung jury. But again, her family thinks it was James.
Yeah, I could see why.
I know more about this story because she was 14.
Okay.
She wasn't 30 or suspected of being a sex worker or anything like that. There's just a lot more on her. Exactly. And her sister has been speaking out ever since Worley was arrested for Sierra's murder. Rachel didn't know him before her sister died, but she met him once.
Oh.
And has always been suspicious of him.
Okay.
Not long after her sister was killed, she was invited with some friends to go hang out somewhere, and it happened to be Worley's place.
Ew.
She didn't think anything of it until someone mentioned that she was the sister of the young girl who was found murdered nearby. Rachel said that Worley immediately changed after that, pacing back and forth and staring at her.
Okay.
And then he ended up making everyone leave.
Yeah, that's suspicious.
Also, in Sierra's case, it came out that Worley is left-handed, and Rachel's family was told that Lori's killer was most likely left-handed.
Yeah, that seems real likely.
Yeah. So back to Hub's Bar real quick. I mentioned that it was important. Lori would have had to walk past it on her way home.
Okay.
I was listening to this other podcast, From One to Wicked, trying to find out more about him and his life before everything, because there isn't a lot. One of the hosts, she actually met him before.
Oh.
Actually, pretty shortly before he murdered Sierra.
Okay.
Which just gives you a better picture of him. She said her boyfriend at the time was in the same pool league as James Worley.
Okay.
At Hub's Bar.
Mm-hmm.
It was his regular spot.
Oh.
So first, that tells you that he is somewhat social.
Yeah.
He goes out to bars a lot. So he isn't this guy secluded in the middle of nowhere just stealing women off the street. He also is out and about. Like he is in town.
I mean, he has to be to find victims.
People knew him and hung out with him. They may have not known him, obviously. If you listen back to early episodes, I was in pool leagues. And I can think of about 10 or so people like this where they go to bars, they play pool, but their personal lives, massive mystery to me.
Right.
Anyway, she met him. He was introduced to her as Jimmy.
Okay.
And she instantly was put off by him.
He just had a vibe.
She saw him more than one time, but there was just something off about him.
Yeah.
She said he had shark eyes.
Okay.
Or what I would call serial killer eyes.
Yes.
Dead inside.
Mm-hmm.
She said he acted very entitled to women's time. She went out to have a cigarette and he went out there and tried striking up a conversation with her, and she was uncomfortable and made an excuse to put it out and go back inside, and he said, whatever, bitch.
Damn. Yeah.
This man has zero respect for women and girls. I'm glad she didn't hang out with him again.
Yes.
She was actually making me scared telling the story. I'm like, gosh, if you had pissed him off too much,
he would have killed you.
Oh my God. So That's who he is. Like, you can kind of get a full picture of.
Yeah, he's the creepy dude that
Who this
no
guy is.
woman feels comfortable around.
Exactly. Mr. I get so many girlfriends. No, you forced how many women?
Exactly. And most of them probably don't make it out alive for all of his saying that they did.
He's delusional. The last girl I'm going to talk about of the main 6 is 19-year-old Tabitha Ann Guth. She went missing on August 20th, 1995. Like with some of the others, there has been rumor that she was a sex worker, but I couldn't find anything to verify this whatsoever. And frankly, after looking into a lot of the women who went missing or died, even if I'm not connecting them to him,
Yeah.
it's just something that they just throw out there a lot.
It's how they write it off.
The
I
fucking
feel like
victim blaming.
I hate it because they're just like, well, it's a dangerous lifestyle. And it's like, no, these are women who are vulnerable. This is a vulnerable population to serial killers. So we should be looking at men who frequent areas where sex workers are.
But that's just it. Like, I don't think she was. But they're saying that about her.
They just write everyone off. Yeah.
Anyway, she was on a date that night and went back to this guy's house. He was falling asleep while they were watching a movie. And after getting a couple calls to her pager, she decided to leave.
Okay.
So she wrote him a note and said she was going to leave. He woke up a bit, offered to take her home, but she said, no, I'm fine to walk. It's not too far. She was going to walk to her mother's house on Willamont, where she was living at the time, which was about 2 miles away.
Okay.
This was around midnight.
Walking 2 miles at midnight is
It's sketchy.
not preferred. Yeah.
That's sketchy.
I don't even want to walk 2 miles in the middle of the day.
I have stopped my nightly walk. Remember in the beginning of this podcast,
Yes.
I was a night walker. I would walk till 2 a.m. by myself in wooded areas. Like, that's what I used to do. But after being on this podcast for a while now,
We go nowhere.
I'm not as brave as I used to be. So anyway, Tabitha was a young mother to a 1-year-old. So maybe she was trying to get back to her.
Yeah.
She was in the process of a divorce. She had only been married for less than a year. My guess is they got married because she was pregnant, but it wasn't the right decision. She never made it home.
Yeah.
The next day, she was reported missing. 2 days after that, kids playing outside found some of her things, like on the ground, a keychain with her name on it. And this was found off Lasky Road. Tabitha's body was found in a wooded area behind a fence near a creek on September 21st, 1995. She was found wearing only her tennis shoes and undergarments, and her death was ruled a homicide. Again, I couldn't find the manner of death, but I'm assuming blunt force trauma.
Right.
Just because of everyone else. And there were a lot more people on this list. I'm only mentioning some of them.
Right.
Where she was found is about 5 minutes from where Michelle Ann Hoffman was found.
Yeah.
14 years apart, but it's still
it's
same
a pattern.
general area.
Yeah.
Her family suspects the ex, actually. I'm not sure why. But apparently, he had a good alibi and he was ruled out. And there's no leads otherwise. I'm not sure if the family knows about people's discovery of possibly connecting her to James
not.
Worley. They
Yeah.
might not. I know that they would just want closure and justice. And I feel so bad for the little baby girl.
I know.
She never got to know
Her
her
mama.
mother.
The thing is, James Worley is not the type of guy who's ever going to confess to anything, it sounds like.
I know,
so we'll
I
never
know.
know.
If only they could have found like his trophies or something, you know?
I know. I wish there was like a truth serum that we could give these guys.
I
Where they
know.
have to tell you. And you could just like list the name and they have to say yes or no.
That's what's fucked up is shit like that exists.
Mhm.
There are ways that we could help people, but they don't want to do stuff like that for average day people.
No, unless you're like a billionaire's child or something. They don't
Exactly.
give a fuck.
So those are the 6 I feel could be connected back to him.
Mm-hmm.
There are other unsolved cases in Ohio that people have put on his list, and they are similar. I'm going to just tell you about them. There's not as much information about it. The first I almost added to the main list I just gave, but there was one thing that stood out that no one else had and why I think she may or may not have been a victim of his. This is Sharon Ward. She was 17 when she was found dead on February 28th, 1982. She was found in a cornfield off
Okay.
a 5100 block of Jacobs Road in Oregon, Ohio. This is about 35 minutes from where Worley was living,
Okay.
which is fine. That's all within
Yeah.
his general area. The reason why I'm hesitant to include her is because of how her body was found. She did die of blunt force trauma to the head, but she also had multiple stab wounds.
Yeah, he's not a stabby kind of guy.
If we're deciding that he follows a strict pattern,
I was like,
I
there's
don't
no
know.
reason. Maybe he had the screwdriver. She fought harder. Like, we
Mhm.
know he threatened with screwdriver. He could
Yeah.
have stabbed. I don't know what she was stabbed with, but
Yeah, I mean, it's more than possible
It's
that
not
she
out
is a
of the
victim
realm.
of
Yeah.
his. Then we have 26-year-old Catherine Jo Hill. She was found in the rear parking lot of a truck stop near Ohio Turnpike in Lake Township, Wood County, Ohio. She was alleged to be a prostitute. She had blunt trauma, right occipital scalp laceration, contusion to the right eye, nasal and chin abrasions, and strangulation. But interestingly, her cause of death was left as undetermined with her autopsy.
Pretty fucking clear. Like, what?
Again, she was found about 35 minutes away.
Mm.
And looking into her, people believe that she was a victim of Dr. No.
Oh, because she was a sex worker.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Dr. No is... Did you ever see the movie Suspect Zero?
I don't know.
That's who it's based on.
I don't know. He has some other names that he goes by, but what I am realizing in all of this, there's just multiple serial killers. And it's just about assigning them to which serial killer, which is really fucked up.
And they can't even do that because there's so many active at one time.
Exactly.
Once again, I-5 killer, they didn't know for sure what victims were his because there was 3 other killers killing in the same area at the same time.
And there seems to be a hub in Ohio. It's scary. It's actually very scary. So another girl, Crystal Proctor, is also on this list. She was 20. I don't have any information about her other than that she was found in a cornfield off of Osborne in Fairborn, Ohio on July 27th, 1997. Cause of death was not listed, only that it was the result of homicidal violence.
Oh.
Where she was found was 2.5 hours away from him.
Yeah.
Again, still possible. He moved around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Not where he lived, but in cars and shit. Next is 24-year-old Joan Elaine Palicio. She was found behind a vacant lot in Toledo on September 15th, 2002. She was believed to have been killed somewhere else and placed there. Cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head and strangulation. The only reason I'm hesitant about her was because she was last seen getting into a red sports car that morning.
Okay.
The man seen with her was white with reddish brown hair. And as far as I know, Worley didn't have a sports car.
No.
But this was more than 20 years ago, and that doesn't mean he didn't have access to using another car at some point, maybe when doing odd jobs for that one guy.
Yeah.
And with Claudia Tensley, we know that he was the last person with her because he was renting a car at the time.
Yeah. So, I mean, cars can be changed at any moment.
So maybe he rented a sports car.
Yeah.
I would be curious if there's a way to dig into his history of renting cars. Maybe it's a regular thing.
That might be part of the crime.
Mm-hmm.
What is so disturbing about all of this is that if we believe he started in 1981, you've listed like 10 victims and most of them are only through like 1995. Like that still leaves us a big gap of time.
I know.
Like he's been active for like 35 years by the time Sierra is killed, which God knows how many people he could have killed.
Like I said, and I'm just focused on this little section of Ohio.
Right.
That's
like,
it.
And if he was a truck driver, like the world's his oyster. Like he could kill any girl
so scary. Anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And he was ready. And he proved that.
That's the whole basis of this movie, Suspect Zero.
Okay.
And it will make you lose sleep. It talks about how easy it is for someone to do something just like what he's probably doing.
Well, thankfully he is off the street. We know one of them is.
We got one. They're like cockroaches. You kill one and there's many more you haven't seen yet.
I know. So those are the ones I could somewhat confidently suggest, but I don't know. Maybe we don't go to Ohio. I'm sorry for those of you who live there, but there seems to be way too many serial killers there. But all of these are alleged.
Right.
But without a doubt, James Worley is no good.
No.
I mean, how likely is it to have had so many girls end up in the same way in the same area? People need to start connecting some dots.
And it's not like it's a huge city. This is a rural area. For that collection of women to be found killed in a similar way, it's got to be connected to someone from that area.
My hope is that with some of these, if they could, actually no, in some cases they couldn't because of the elements, was that the evidence is put away somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They could still physically connect it to someone, whether it's James or not. Like,
Right.
I just want these girls to have some closure.
Yes.
Many of these were during a time when DNA evidence wasn't really a thing. There's no CCTV, no cell phones, not a
Right.
lot to work off of. But the ones that were within a few miles of him, why weren't they investigating local residents?
Yeah, going and knocking doors like they did for Sierra.
Exactly. Why weren't they doing that then? There aren't that many to choose from.
Everybody knows who the weirdest guy is in town.
Exactly.
Especially in small areas like that.
And in the case of Robin and Sierra, like you just talked about, he didn't do anything since 1995. I don't believe for 1 second. 26 years of not doing anything when he tried to abduct them the exact same way.
He had a whole crate full of how many outfits and things that he wanted to put on victims.
And he made sure that he had ways to get women, whether he was on his bike or in his car.
Yeah,
He's bad.
He was ready at all times.
Evil man.
And God knows how many poor souls succumbed to him.
And one last thing about this list. The Web Sleuths board I found, Sierra's mother was on there talking to everybody.
Okay.
She believes he's responsible for other girls' deaths as well.
Of course.
It was difficult reading her posts.
Yeah.
Poor mom. Once you lose a child, it becomes your life. And she had other children to care for.
I know.
It's heartbreaking. But you want to keep up the energy to
justice.
Exactly.
Anything you can do. I can't imagine, and I hope neither of us ever have to imagine.
I can't even talk to that. So back to Sierra and her family. For now, the family is waiting for his execution, but they didn't waste time doing everything they could to honor Sierra's memory. And like Marissa Matthews Weifler's parents and friends did, they fought for change in state laws.
Okay.
They set up the Sierah Joughin Memorial Scholarship Fund from donations they received from a GoFundMe that they originally set up in an effort to fund the hefty search for her.
Oh.
After she was found, the money was transferred to this fund.
Okay.
There was also a 5K color run event that they did, and the funds from that was added to this. It was called Joggin' for Joggin', which is cute.
That's cute.
They expected around 300 participants, but there were over 1,600 people who showed up.
Okay.
The scholarship benefits graduates from Evergreen High School who have participated in varsity sports and organizations to help them with college.
Okay, that's awesome.
In September 2019, the high school dedicated a plaque and planted 2 trees on the property for her. They also started an organization called Justice for Sierra. It was founded by Tara, and it is still going strong today with many family members as part of the leadership team. It focuses on a few things, one of which is a program called Sierra Strong. It's a self-awareness and defense program. It's offered as an in-school curriculum, which empowers teachers to provide life-saving skills to their students, and is also a community program for groups like Scouts, youth groups, and after-school programs. Justice for Sierra has continued the annual 5K color run, which is now called Spirit of Sierra.
Okay.
And now holds a birthday soiree for Sierra in February.
Mm-hmm.
This year it was on the 8th. It's this magical night celebrating Sierra's life and all that Justice for Sierra has accomplished that year. It's like this upscale celebration that I think Sierra just would have loved.
Yeah.
There's cocktails, live and silent auctions, games. Everyone dresses up to raise money. There's a fancy formal dinner and there's dancing. As of today, events through Justice for Sierra has raised almost $600,000.
Wow.
And over 7,000 hours of Sierra Strong training has been provided.
Okay.
They also started something really neat. It's called Kid Print IDs, which are these ready laminated cards of every child in their community that has a picture of the child and pertinent information for law enforcement to get out to the community, like height, weight, hair, eye color, in the event of a missing child. The card also has the child's fingerprint and a list of steps parents should take in a crisis situation on the back of the card.
Okay.
They created the Kid Print ID machine, which is also used by the Wood County Sheriff's Office. And I think that that's amazing. I would love to see it adopted everywhere.
I feel like something like that happened here in Colorado when my kids were in school.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Like they offered a card or something.
I wonder if they do it still. Maybe I need to just ask. Maybe it is a thing.
Yeah, I feel like my kids had that.
Also, following Sierra's death, her family advocated for a violent offender database to help communities be aware of who was in their area and to expedite the process of finding kidnapped individuals.
Yes.
In December 2018, Sierra's law passed unanimously in the Ohio House with a vote of 85-0, and it created a database that can now be used by law enforcement and everyday citizens to find out where violent offenders live in Ohio communities.
Love it.
Which, based on the history in that state, was desperately needed.
Absolutely.
Since the law passed, 3,655 violent offenders have been registered.
That's a lot.
Good to know where they are. I know there has been some pushback on it, something about privacy.
Yeah, they did that because there's a sex offender list you can access, like Family Watchdog, and people have said that too. It's like, oh, now they're going to be harassed. Well, you know what?
You did the fucking crime.
Exactly. And this sounds like just an extension of that.
Yeah.
Now you also have violent offenders because even though they're not classified as sex offenders, I keep going back to Randy Woodfield because he was accused of things, but he wasn't registered as a sex offender. And he could have been found.
For some fucking odd reason, it takes a lot to get these people charged.
There's patterns in their behaviors. Like,
I know. The goal of Justice for Sierra is to advocate for Sierra's law to be enacted in all U.S. states.
Good.
Which I would love to see, although the state of this country is scary right now. And I hope that what they have advocated and fought for stays up.
Me too.
Because I don't know. Overall, Justice for Sierra is an amazing organization that is doing a lot of good. It grows every year. Outside of this, Sierra's family won a wrongful death suit against Worley.
Okay.
It wasn't about the money. They were going after his property. In July of 2018, the property was awarded to the family, and they had the farmhouses and barn demolished. They couldn't stand having to drive by the place she was tortured and killed.
Yeah, that would be horrible.
They were also awarded a monetary settlement of $3.6 million, but the family agreed to not execute on the judgment unless James somehow received a windfall of money, such as winning the lottery, which is that legal while you're in jail? I don't know.
I don't think you can.
Or receive some kind of book or movie rights or royalties for his crimes. So they're not taking money unless he gets money for some reason.
He shouldn't be able to make any money off of anything.
In more recent news, in August of 2020, the Fulton County Sheriff's Department was found to be searching the Worley property again using excavation equipment.
Good.
With the assistance of the FBI.
Okay.
It's not clear what it's for. It was not about Sierra. So the guess is that they were looking into some of the other cases that he's suspected to be attached to.
Probably.
No comment has been given on if anything was found, but that any evidence found would be collected with the assistance of the FBI evidence response team. This was several years ago, so I am curious what, if anything, will come out from that search.
I mean, it seems like he dumped the bodies in other places.
Exactly.
So they're probably not going to find much. They need to look at all the cornfields around.
Exactly. The entire fucking town needs to be excavated, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Not even the town, multiple towns.
Right.
But her family is doing good, all the good they can.
Yeah.
And in the end, Sierra did affect change. She did have a lasting impact on this world. She was and is incredibly loved, and she lives on in so many ways today. She's celebrated every day. And her boyfriend, Josh, he was able to find peace. Like with everyone, it was extremely difficult for him when he lost her. He lost his
soulmate
life.
Yeah.
Every single plan and goal he had was tied to Sierra and their future together.
Right.
How do you recover from that?
You don't.
He had a huge support system like her, and eventually he was able to move on positively, always with her in mind. He continued on to college. He's now a medic and a firefighter. He found someone who accepted Sierra's impact on his life and how it made him who he is today and supports him in remembering her. He's now married. He has a child, but he continues to contribute to her memory and legacy in his own way. He started a charitable organization called Keeping Our Girls Safe.
Okay.
It focuses on providing education and empowering girls and women with the tools and knowledge to ensure their safety and security, both in themselves and their surroundings. So it's similar to Justice for Sierra, not in competition with, but complementary to.
Right.
Justice for Sierra is for all children. His organization is focused on girls and women. The organization has annual events and ceremonies to remember Sierra, keeping her memory alive. It also offers support to individuals and families who are going through similar traumatic experiences, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, that is.
In an interview, he said, "This is for her. I do it for her. And I just want to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else."
Right.
So he's doing amazing things, and I know that she would be very proud of him.
Yes. And in a way, she did get to change the world.
Yes. Let's remember Sierra not for the brutality of her final moments, but for the light she brought to those who love her. She was a vibrant student, a devoted friend, and a young woman with dreams that were still unfolding. Her story is a stark reminder of the fragility of safety and the enduring courage required to demand justice in the face of unimaginable loss. Sierra's family transformed their grief into action, and we should help them with their goals. So advocate for laws like Sierra's in your state. Educate yourself and others about community safety. Remember her name, not as a victim, but as the catalyst for change. And if you can, please donate to their organization, as it helps a lot of people. And you can do it online at justiceforsierra.org. And thank you for listening to her story.
Wow. It's amazing to hear that once again, like, you have a family making the best of a absolutely horrible situation. And this poor young light was taken out of the world by someone so dark that is still allowed to live. It's just, you know, the same thing that we say in so many episodes.
Yeah.
It's just unfair.
It's very unfair. And all she was doing was riding a bike.
I don't know what else to say, because I think we've said it so much throughout. It's like we're just not allowed to do anything. We can't exist in this world freely without worrying about these sickos.
And then we are told to pipe it down when
we're
we
overreacting.
voice our concerns and saying that we can't do anything. Yes, you can. Shut up. You can go for a walk. No, we can't.
We
because
literally cannot.
Sierra gets taken from a bike ride.
In a small town.
Like, it
That's
doesn't
supposed to be
matter.
safe. Yeah.
It's a scary world. It really is.
And it gets scarier every day right now.
I know.
Because I feel like a lot of the protections that have been put in place may be dismantled soon.
Exactly. They're taking away everything that's going to protect us from these men.
And they feel more empowered than ever to come at women and minorities. But you know what? The world will right itself. We are in a dark time right now, but it won't be forever. And I'm trying to keep that positive light. And,
Me too.
And I hope and encourage all of you to as well.
Yep.
Well, thank you for all of the work on researching this episode. I had not heard Sierra's story, and fuck James Worley.
Yes, big
that
time.
guy. I mean, I think you uncovered another serial killer that we will never know the extent of, and
that's the hardest part about it.
He's gone into the prison forever now, at least, and nobody else can be harmed by him.
No, hopefully. Well, thank you. And if you enjoy us, guys, we don't usually ask, but we've been actually encouraged to request reviews and ratings.
Please, on every platform that you can, review or rate.
Yes, it would be much appreciated because we have been at this for a long time now. And because we don't push it and we don't ask, probably why we don't have what we need to have at this point. So share our podcast with someone you know. Tell them not to listen to the first 10 episodes.
Yeah, we're embarrassed of those. Also, we are still doing this free of ads right now.
Yes.
We're not hitting you over the head with different, ads like I hear on other podcasts. We're not asking you to send money all the time. Like, we just need 2 minutes of your time.
Yeah.
If you are enjoying listening, we are seeing an uptick in listens lately, and that is encouraging us, and we just want to keep growing. We will be focused this year on how
to grow,
to get the message out there,
to be an adult podcast. I mean, I feel like me and Kendra have, because of our limitations, have taken our sweet time figuring some stuff out, but now it's like we need to be grown-ups with it.
Yes.
So there will be some changes hopefully coming this year, but we hope that you enjoy the show. If you have any stories or suggestions, please send those to lucidlabpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes, and next week will be our lab report episode where we will share your stories in a couple of mini episodes, so look forward to that. We would love to feature you on an upcoming episode.
Yes.
And in the meantime,
stay lucid. Fuck James Worley.
Fuck that guy. Bye.
Goodbye.